A huge luxurious building with a considerable area. A park, a lake, a swimming pool, everything is here. This place is the Minuet Imperial Academy, one of the best educational institutions in the country. The academy educates talented children in various fields: swordsmanship, magic, theoretical knowledge. Minuet students excel in everything they do. Every year, more than 17 girls and boys try to enter here, hoping to fulfill their dreams. Of course, not everyone can do it. Well, now let's look at this year's list of lucky ones who managed to enter the academy. The first name written on the curled sheet is Yelena Evoy. Boys and girls are surprised. They are hearing about such a girl for the first time. And in general, it is hard for them to believe that she was able to bypass Iowan Periton. The shuffling of shoes on the floor is heard. A tall blonde boy in white sneakers dressed in an expensive academy uniform approaches the crowd. Everyone starts whispering. He asks, "Miss Elena?" Those present in the corridor immediately blush. And this applies not only to girls. One student covers her mouth with her hand. Yelena, a girl with dark long hair, does not pay attention to the boy at all. The old man shines his blue eyes, smiles sweetly, and says, "Congratulations on the first place." After that, he squints cutely. However, these words do not make any impression on Yelena either. One student says, "As expected, John is different. He is supported by a short-haired girl." One more time. After all, John has a wonderful character. He's just an angel. The young man likes these compliments. He smiles with the corner of his mouth and says in his mind, "Of course I often hear this. It's bad, of course, that I didn't become the first, but everything is fine if our conversation ends like this." Huan looks at Elena. The girl just stands still. Her behavior starts to annoy the boy. He believes that Elena should thank him for such generosity, and the girl seems to read his thoughts. She opens her bright purple eyes wide and says, "Thank you." John looks back at her in shock. Yelena asks in an indifferent tone, "You don't have anything else to say, do you? If so, I will go." Dark-haired calmly walks past the surprised young man. The crowd begins to buzz. The students are surprised by the conversation of these two, and especially by Yelena's audacity. Ioan silently looks after the dark-haired woman. It seems to him that his pride, like a huge stone, is splitting into small pieces that cannot be gathered into a pile. The young man is offended by Yelena. Let's learn a little about John's life. He is one of the 4 children of Duke Periton III. His full name is John Eldorado Periton. The boy is the 5th nephew of King Ghent III, Emperor of the Princeton Empire. John is a member of the royal family. This can be understood from his behavior and aristocratic, refined facial features. He looks like a prince. Farabach is perfect in everything. Swordsmanship, magic, theoretical subjects. He succeeded in everything he did. Even the strictest and most demanding teachers praised him. The boy made a name for himself, taking the first places in the Minuet Academy. In the academy where prodigies from 13 to 16 years of age are accepted. But that's not all. The young man's appearance is also special. Blonde hair with a golden tint, bottomless eyes the color of the clear sky in which you can melt. John is able to charm anyone with his smile. When he smiles at the girls, they immediately start looking at him with loving eyes. Most people believe that John is perfection that fell from heaven. The boy's future was already determined and planned. And when he saw that Yelena Evoy was the first in the ranking of those who entered, he got angry. After all, the first place, according to the boy, should have gone to him. Now the young man is standing in the corridor and trying to control his emotions, so as not to catch up with Elena and say a few kind words to her. Students discuss the nobility of the young man and Eva's rudeness. John brushes his chin with his hand. He tries to remember something about Eva's family, but no matter how many families the boy listed, Eva was not among them. If we had seen each other at high society events, the fair-haired man thinks, I would have recognized her. The boy enters the classroom and sits down at the desk. He turns his head to the side and sees Yelena. The girl is concentrating on reading a book. The young man looks at Yelena. Neatly arranged hair with a dark purple shade, complete indifference, and a face as cold as ice. Hyuan mentally notes that this girl is quite beautiful. 2 female students approach the young man and ask what he is looking at. The blonde smiles and says that today is simply an incredible sky. But in reality, the young man wanted to sneeze at this sky. It is clear that what he said is just an excuse. He cannot admit that he was looking at Yelena, the girl who answered him so rudely in the corridor. John is only interested in what people think when they look at him. Although the guy already knows, he occupies a high place in society, and yet he is troubled by some trifle. This is what people think when they see John Perrotin, this fair-haired, handsome man of royal blood. His behavior fully corresponds to his origin. One student, standing next to the young man, asks him, "Ioana, have you already chosen the specialty you will study? Maybe this is the technical department?" The girl's black-haired friend is responsible for the boy. "Of course, I've decided. His father, Duke Perrotin, is the best knight in the empire." The girls continue to say, "And that's true. Sir Isaac joined the Royal Guard immediately after graduation." The boy shuddered at the mention of his brother. They have a rather complicated relationship. Sir Duke Perrotin's next heir is his first son, Noah Maison Perrotin. The second son, Isaac Schwedel Perrotin. John has two older brothers, and both of them glorified the name Perrotin. John is their complete opposite. He is constantly compared to Isaac, because he is a year older. The boy lives with the feeling that he will never be able to shine brighter than his brothers. Nevertheless, he must be sure that his actions will not harm the family's reputation. That is why his beautiful blue eyes are often full of sadness. But you won't do anything. Such is his role as the third, last son of the Perrotin family. Now Ioana is smiling at the girls so they don't suspect anything and says, I'm afraid I haven't made up my mind yet. The choice of fields is so diverse." One of the girls clenches her hands into fists in excitement and happily tells the boy that he shouldn't worry about it. After all, he is very capable in terms of magic. Then the two female students leave Iowan and approach their black-haired friend. They ask her if she has heard anything about Eva. The guy listens to this conversation. The girl says that she has not heard anything about her. John says to himself, of course they didn't hear, but where did it come from at all? Another girl joins the students. She says that the author Evoy is known as the Founder. "Founder?" asks the black-haired man. "Is he some kind of black magician?" A blonde girl with glasses answers, "He is a sociophobe and hates to be criticized. In addition, he refused a high status. Because of this, no one knows anything about his family." The students' friends say in amazement, "Emily, you know everything. You must be interested in magicians." The girl says that this story is quite difficult to understand. John opens his eyes wide. Now he understands what kind of family it is. Haggai looks at girls. It seems to him that it is not very right to speak so loudly about such things. And the story is not one of the pleasant ones, so that everyone can understand it. Ioan turns his gaze to Elena. Surprisingly, the girl does not react to what is said about her family. She continues reading the book. The blonde takes out a pen and thinks, either Yelena is an emotionless person or she has good self-control, or simply not interested in other people's conversations. One of three. The young man lowers his eyes to the notebook and starts turning the pen in his hands. After a few seconds, he finally touches the paper with it. At the same time, the young man talks to himself. Being a knight is not bad, but I will be able to help my father if I get a job in the government. This is what the third son of the Perrotin family is. It doesn't matter how cool he is. There will always be an invisible game between him and his brothers. The boy's father always told him to remember his place in this family. Parubkov was forbidden to stand out. Of course, this upset John, and it's sad now. Although the guy looks like a happy person, his life is not as sweet as it seems at first glance. The blonde lowers his eyes and stares into the notebook. Universal sadness is reflected in his eyes. He does not understand why age has such an effect on the attitude of family members towards you. The guy tries to distract himself. He looks out the window. The new semester is disappointing. Ioan promises himself to go for a walk after school. Night. A bright full moon illuminates the earth. That is why you can see every plant in the Minuet Academy garden. This is a luxurious place. A lot of different trees, charming flowers. There is a fountain in the middle of the garden. John just arrived at this place. The guy says in his mind, it's spacious and very nice here. Although this garden cannot even be compared with a palace garden. The boy walks deep into the garden. He turns behind one of the columns and sees a girl holding someone's hand. John takes a closer look and realizes that this girl is Yelena. The blonde opens his eyes wide in surprise. He quietly calls the girl, Miss Yelena. Ta turns his head towards the boy and stares at him, not letting go of someone's big hand. This is the arm of the Fiona statue. Fiona is the goddess of love. She is mentioned in the myths about the foundation of the empire. Legends say that whoever prays to her will fall in love and be loved. Girls often believe this, but Yelena... The boy did not expect such a thing from this reclusive girl who now cannot utter a word. The fair-haired man raises his hand to his chin and thinks that Elena has forgotten here. It does not appear that she is or has been in a relationship. But even with such a look, she would not confess to anyone, let alone a date. Finally, the girl breaks the awkward silence. "Do you need anything?" The young man gives a short laugh. Yelena says in a serious tone that she is working, and Iowan distracts her from her work. If he wants to look at the statue, he has to wait. The young man opens his eyes wide in surprise. Does it work? He does not understand what kind of work can be done with a statue. John asks the dark-haired man about it. Elena says she's polishing Fiona. She lowers her eyes and quietly says that she is busy now. The girl has a rag in her hands. Elena squeezes her fingers tightly and continues. "If you're enjoying your evening walk, I'll finish later." The blonde squeezes a smile out of himself. He carefully asks the girl, "May I know why you are cleaning her?" Yelena says that she earns money this way. The young man tries to say something about the academy, but the dark-haired man interrupts him. "Of course I have permission to do this work." "All right." Parabik is shocked. He doesn't even know what surprises him more. The fact that the academy approves all this, or that it is Yelena who works. Of course, studying at the academy is not cheap, but this girl is from a noble family. There are cases when respectable ladies become maids of honor, but this is only for political gain. No more, no less. The blonde tries to say something, but all that comes out is, "Eh." He still can't get over what the girl told him. Now Ioana is interested in the financial situation of her family, but he quickly stops his thoughts, clearing his throat. It is not very polite to ask such things. The guy looks at the dark-haired one. The girl looks at him somewhat depressed. She is sad or just shy. It is difficult to understand. In general, Yelena is one complete mystery. The dark-haired girl's eyes sparkle. It occurs to the boy that his presence here is burdening Yelena. He opens his mouth. John does not know why this happened. Is he annoying this girl? The next day, academy. Another lesson has just ended. Ioannis is sitting at his desk and gathering together sheets of paper. The girls, as always, discuss something with each other. The guy taps the sheets on the desk and thinks, "There were many cases when people burdened me, but I would never have them." Suddenly, someone interrupts the young man's thoughts. "John." A guy with short red hair approaches the fair-haired one. He knocks on John's desk and asks him, "Are you going to the party next week? My father really hopes for that." The young man smiles sweetly. A second later he says, "If Marcus Hansen is waiting for me, how can I refuse? It's an honor for me." The red-haired man thanks the barman and says goodbye to him. The boy tries to push his way to the door and throws rude words in the direction of other students. "Let's take our time. Move our legs." John's expression changes from cheerful to icy. He looks after the redhead. The young man huffs angrily and says to himself that this boy is an idiot, who is nothing without his parents. Suddenly, the fair-haired man turns his gaze to Yelena. The girl is writing something in a notebook. John observes her. Is she always so focused? If someone else had seen her, rumors would have spread throughout the academy. The boy himself does not tell anyone about what he saw at night, because he considers himself a decent student. He puts his hand to his chin and thinks that word of their loss might reach the elite. I wonder if everything will be just as calm. The blonde raises his eyebrows. He realizes that he is worried about Yelena. But why? He had seen this strange girl only a few times, and he was already so nervous. Hayawan clutches strands of blonde hair with his hands and mentally shouts, "Why do I even care?" Later, the boy calmed down a little, but the excitement did not go anywhere, and he admits this to himself. The sun peeks through the windows of the academy. Now all the students are sitting in the assembly hall. The presenter announces the representative of the freshmen. This person is climbing the stairs to the stage. This is Yelena Evoy. The girl approaches the cathedral. The dark-haired woman looks at the sheet of paper in her hands with wide-open eyes. The freshmen are surprised that their representative is this silent girl. One dark-haired boy says that Yelena is quite cute if it weren't for her cold, bone-crushing gaze. John looks at the girl. His look is a little sad. For the first time in the young man's life, someone bypassed him. The blonde remembers the day the academy showed the lists of those who had entered. Haiwan looked confused, seeing not himself in the first place, but a certain Yelena Eva. The boy never thought that this could happen. He was so sure of his perfection that he did not even assume that there are people smarter than him. But surprisingly, he did not envy the dark-haired man. He was just surprised. His light blue eyes were looking intently at the list, checking if John had mixed something up. The boy felt severe pain in his chest. The blonde snaps back to reality. He raises his hand to his chin and begins to analyze the situation. I have a rival for the first time, and I feel weird. He still can't forget the look on her face when they happened to meet in the garden of the academy at night. The girl's look was indifferent. There was not an iota of kindness or hostility in him. Maybe it's just a mask. Huan squints at Elena and decides that he will watch her from this day on. It doesn't sound like much, but the guy doesn't see anything like that. This girl really interested him. Huan never denied his innate talent. After all, it is much better to be gifted by nature than to go to perfection in small steps, knocking your feet into blood. The fair-haired man had a good memory since childhood. The boy also had good athletic data and the ability to read quickly. All the teachers called him a genius, said that he had incredible talent, but these boasts did not cloud the boy's mind. He always worked diligently and gave his best because even talent has its limits. Academy Library. There are a lot of books here. The management arranged everything for their pupils. Every student can find the material he needs in this place. On this day, 2 freshmen are here, Yuan and Yelena. The boy looks at the dark-haired man with wide eyes. The girl's look, as always, is indifferent. Finally, the boy says to the girl, "Lady Elena?" but quietly answers, "Yes." And here the young man does not know what to say. He does not feel very comfortable. A lot of thoughts are spinning in his genius head. How would it be the right way to start a conversation? Nice to meet you. But we have already seen each other. What then? Show surprise? Why? The blonde squeezes out a smile and, trying to look as friendly as possible, says, "We met again." Yelena answers, "Yes." Her expression did not change at all. "You seem to be busy," notices Iowan. "Are you working?" The girl gives an affirmative answer. Then she nods her head for something. Yelena looks at the table. John squints cutely, trying to dispel the awkwardness that has arisen between them. He is not a tactless person, and never was. But during this time, he understood one thing. Yelena Evoy, this girl with the icy gaze, is not interested in him at all. She doesn't care what he says. She is a serious person who focuses only on her affairs. Everything is quite simple, so even now she is not looking at John. A woman with light brown hair approaches the girl. Elena immediately forgets about Iwan and asks the stranger, "Would you like to apply for a loan?" "So," the woman answers. Elena begins to discuss with her all the nuances of this procedure. Iwan is finally convinced that he is the apple of the eye for this girl. The young man turns and walks away. How could this happen? He says in his mind. Yelena's behavior seems fantastic to the boy. Students of the academy always approached him. They asked how he was doing, asked him for help, and he never refused anyone. This young man was perfection in its purest form. Rich, handsome, famous, talented, with a mild character and exemplary behavior. All this is about Yuan Eldorado Pertan, a bright boy, the star of the academy. His charming smile and friendliness impressed everyone, apart from Yelena. For her, this handsome man is an ordinary person. That's why she always just walked past him. Now let's talk about the true feelings and character of Elena Eva. The life motto of the girl was the words, "Don't look at the tree you can't climb." The dark-haired man was not interested in sweets, beautiful dresses and jewelry, or luxurious life in general. Now John, a sweet boy with royal blood in his veins, has been added to this list. Yelena's classmate, whom she overtook. Only John is not a tree, but rather a precious stone. A diamond of the highest standard. When the guy leaves the library, Yelena sighs with relief. We've been seeing each other too much lately. The girl goes back to work but still thinks about the fair-haired man. I guess he does it unintentionally, although we meet everywhere, regardless of where and when I am. The dark-haired one remembers how Ioan once approached her and said with a wide smile, "You are indeed a very busy person, but even so, you are the first in the entire academy. It is incredibly." Yelena tilts her head to the side. "But he doesn't spread any rumors about me unlike the others. That's what worries me, to be honest." The dark-haired one lowers his head and exhales loudly. The girl circles the inscription scholarship on the paper with a pen. "I paid for education and accommodation," reflects Yelena. "All that's left is to send some money home." The girl tears the pen from the paper. Dark-haired points out that it would be a good idea to call a doctor. The girl immerses herself in memories of her family. The honor and glory of the Evoy family lasted only during the time of the first Viscount, who was a powerful wizard. He was a sensitive person and did not like society. Aide still left behind descendants. Unfortunately, there were no people with the same talent in subsequent generations. At the time of Elena's birth, all the wealth and fame of the Eva family were lost. But everything was fine. Elena's mother always told the girl, "Instead of you being incredibly talented, he wanted you to grow up to be decent people. People who honestly fulfill their duties." Little Elena asked, "How is father?" The mother, a fair-haired young woman, nodded her head. She said that even managing small territories is an important task. However, all good things tend to come to an end. One day there was an accident with the carriage of the Viscount Evoy. When it was just passing the territory of the Duke of Notre, the Viscountess fell seriously ill from grief. She looked out the window for hours, not believing that her dear beloved husband had died. He always did everything for this world. Why didn't the world thank him for the same? Yelena also had a hard time. She lost her father when she was only 7 years old. The girl was forced to take care of her seriously ill mother. These difficulties forced her to grow up earlier than her peers. Dark-haired emerges from sad memories. She sits, supporting her head with her hand, and thinks about her mother. "I hope she is doing well. It will be necessary to visit her as soon as possible." Yelena's eyes start to close. The next day, the room in which Yelena lives. It's a pretty cute room, tastefully furnished, a large sofa, an armchair, 2 floor lamps for reading, and of course lots of drawers for things. A dark-haired girl enters the room. Her bright blue hair is tied in a high ponytail. She sparkles with yellow-hot eyes and greets Elena. "Hello." Dark-haired is silent, but this does not bother the stranger. "Are you my roommate? Call me Azili. An unexpected incident happened on the way, so I was delayed a little. I hope I didn't miss anything important, okay?" Yelena answers that so far there have only been introductory lectures. Satisfied, Izzy walks into the room and says that the academy is simply huge. Yelena says in her mind that now she will only dream of peaceful days. The girl was used to living alone, and now Azili broke this idyll. But it's good, Yelena is used to it. The dark-haired woman asks her neighbor, "Are you feeling well?" Azili shuddered at the girl's cold look and asked what she was talking about. The dark-haired one reminds her of an incident on the way to the academy. Sweat runs down Azila's face. The girl looks a little excited. She is a little surprised, even frightened by the behavior of her neighbor. Yelena seems apathetic to Azila. Blue-haired laughs nervously. "Everything is fine. Are you always so careful with your words?" Yelena ignores Azila's words and starts doing her own thing. When asked by a neighbor what she does, the dark-haired woman answers, "I embroider." Azili leans over to Yelena and asks the focused girl, "Oh, do you embroider? Do you want to give it to someone?" Blue Hair sees the beautiful patterns on the cloth and tells the girl that it is very beautiful. Yelena says she wants to sell it. Azili smiles and says that this is a good idea. The blue-haired man then jumps to another topic. "By the way, don't you think this academy is just huge? It even seems to me that it is bigger than my kingdom." Yelena answers that she was also surprised. And it's true. This luxurious castle turned out to be much larger than she had imagined. The dorm rooms are bigger than the rooms in her house. The restless Azili again shifts her gaze to Elena's embroidery and asks if this activity takes a lot of time. The dark-haired one, without breaking away, says, "Yes." Azili wipes away a tear and says plaintively, "It's sad. Could you give me a little tour of the academy? I wouldn't want to get lost on the first day of school." Yelena, who is just trying to thread a needle, says, "Weren't you given a tour? I'm busy right now, so you'll have to wait." Azili can't stand it and tells the girl that she is too cold to her poor neighbor. "You need to help people," she scolds the dark-haired man. Yelena indifferently replies that she agrees with that, but she is busy now. The dark-haired one looks carefully at the fabric and ponders his refusal. As long as I have to combine studies and work, I can't waste my time. Friends, of course, are important, but you can't get enough of them. But Izili is not going to back down. She decides to take her neighbor out in another way. The blue-haired one smiles and asks, "Do you like something tasty? I can buy us a snack. Come on." Yelena stands up. The girls leave the castle. Along the way, they discuss the importance of food. Izili points out that despite Elena's appearance, you can't say that she likes to eat. The girls go around the territory of the academy. Elena explains to her neighbor where everything is. The dark-haired woman points her finger forward. To solve problems with the dormitory or documents, you should go to the administration. There. Suddenly, Izili interrupts Yelena. "And who is this?" The dark-haired woman turns her head to the side where her neighbor is looking. She sees John there, surrounded by a group of girls. In principle, as always. The guy smiles sweetly at his fans. Izili, not taking his eyes off the fair-haired man, says, "Does he look like a prince? Is this the prince who entered the academy?" Elna says that the prince is from the second year. This can be seen from the tie. The girl bites her lip and says, "This is Yuan Peritan. He is not a prince, although he is indeed a member of the imperial family if he is the son of Duke Peritan." Izili asks if Yelena and Iowan are close. The dark-haired one replies, "Not much." Suddenly, her neighbor remembers that she needs to go to the building where the academy's administration is located. Izili immediately rushes in the right direction, finally saying to Elena, "Wait for me." The dark-haired one sighs. Looks like the days at the dorm are going to be more tiring from now on. Here someone calls the girl, "Lady Elena?" The dark-haired woman flinches slightly in surprise and looks away. John is standing next to her. The young man politely smiles and asks the dark-haired man, "What are you doing here?" Perhaps this question does not sound very well-mannered, but the boy did not have such a thing in mind. The girl points her finger in the direction where Izili ran a second ago and answers that she is showing the academy. Iowan cheerfully says, "You work as a tour guide." The dark-haired one puts a hand to her chin and thinks about how to properly answer, I got food for that. Can this be called work? Or rather a service? After all, Yelena says that she just has a neighbor. Iowan's blue eyes twinkle. "A roommate at a time like this? Well, now you definitely won't be bored." The young man tries with all his might to maintain the conversation. And he succeeds. Yelena smiles from the corner of her mouth. The girl squints and answers, "True." The indifference disappeared from her voice. The blonde opens his eyes wide in surprise. He is shocked. It is hard to believe that Yelena, this ice lady, smiled at him. Wonder. The girl is embarrassed. She says her roommate will be back soon, and seeing Iowan, she will definitely want to stop him to chat. The guy scratches his neck and says that he will leave then. The dark-haired one wishes him a good trip. He waves his hand to the girl and answers, "To you too." The blonde is going somewhere. Elena looks at him. John lowers his head so that no one sees how he blushed. The guy mentally asks himself, why did she suddenly smile? Dark-haired also thinks about this situation. We see each other often, so I became more comfortable with him? The girl smiled at the man without noticing it. The next day, a shout is heard in the corridor of the academy. "Elena!" Not very satisfied, Izili approaches the girl. She asks the dark-haired man, "Why didn't you wake me up in the morning and just leave?" The girl replies that she tried, but Izili did not want to get out of the warm bed. The two female students watching them say about Izili. The blue-haired one next to Elena is the princess of Deuton Kingdom. Xuan, who is just having a delicious steak lunch, hears these conversations. The girls don't understand why the princess is hanging out with someone like Elena. The blonde closes his eyes and sighs. First, he didn't know that Elena's roommate was a princess. Secondly, it annoys him that someone speaks like that about a dark-haired person. It's time to learn a little more about the Deuton Kingdom and Izili herself. Deuton is a nation of warriors, striving for self-sufficiency, even though it is poor. It is a rather closed state. Few people know what is happening there. John coughs into his fist. This is the first time that a member of the Deuton royal family has been sent to study abroad. This is a good chance to learn more about this country even though Izili is not an heiress. The guy carefully cuts the meat and mentions Elena. I wonder if she knows that her roommate is a member of the royal family. In her eyes, you can see disinterest in ordinary things. In the light-haired man's imagination, Yelena's face appears, smiling at him. He mentally notes that at that moment, the girl looked extremely cute and beautiful. The young man scrapes the plate with a fork. His face contorts with anger at himself. What did I say? But what is good? No, being pretty is one thing, but what do I have to do with that? For John, people are divided into 3 types. Needed now, needed in the future, and none of these. To tell the truth, Yelena does not belong to any of them. More specifically, she is a person who can become an obstacle on his way. The guy purses his lips. He tries to calm himself down. What happened to me was something I couldn't even imagine. I should think of Yelena as the wind that whistled past me and evaporated at the same moment. Night. A bunch of small stars shine in a dark, almost black sky. The garden of the academy at this time, as we already know, is quiet and no less beautiful than during the day. John came here again. He stands on a stone floor decorated with incomprehensible patterns. The boy raises his head and sees Yelena. He calls her. A girl with a dark-colored cape on her shoulders turns her gaze to the light-haired man and says indifferently, "Ah, Yoan." The dark-haired woman sitting on the arm of the Fiona statue slowly descends. A purple glow surrounds her feet. The boy is amazed by what he saw. Are you using magic now? In his mind, Iowan says, she casts spells so easily. It was said that she was only from a family of magicians, which had no outstanding masters since the time of the first Viscount. Yelena answers, yes, last time I could not completely wipe the top. As you can see, it is much safer to use magic to get up here. The guy squints and tries to squeeze out a smile. In fact, he agrees that it is safer than climbing the statue with a rope tied to it. But there is one nuance. You can't use magic in the academy. The girl seems to be reading his thoughts again. I say this just in case, but the dean allowed me. That's how, John answers. Meanwhile, Yelena is already on the ground. The girl looks at the young man and asks if he has anything to say. He points to himself and asks, me? The dark-haired one says that she feels like they've been seeing each other a lot lately. The guy smiles so that Yelena doesn't suspect anything and says that it's a coincidence. Half yes, half no, he adds mentally. The blonde flashes his bottomless eyes. I also know that I'm interested in someone right away. I'm so fixated on her being the first person among the aristocrats to make me feel defeated. The young man lowers his head and smiles sadly. I always follow Yelena. If you think about it, studying at a time like this would help your success. In the imagination of the fair-haired man, the image of his father appears. If he found out about his son's behavior and feelings, he would be very angry with him. He would gnash his teeth and call John a miserable man. I would say that the boy will become a nobody in the family and will never do even a part of what his older brothers did. The blonde lowers his head. He disappointed his father again without wanting to. Suddenly, the boy's sad thoughts are interrupted by Yelena. You're not smiling. The old man asks the dark-haired man in surprise. What? The girl puts her hands to her chest and explains, as I noticed, you often smile. You smile like that. Yelena tries to recreate the fair-haired man's smile. She is doing pretty well. It's even similar. The dark-haired one also squints cutely, straining his facial muscles. The blonde shivers and swallows. He is surprised, to say the least. Parubak did not expect that Yelena was watching his behavior. The girl continues. And I am grateful to you for not telling anyone about my work. The guy fumbles a bit. I just didn't want to look unceremonious by telling others about it. There is nothing to be thankful for. The dark-haired girl rests her chin on her fist. She muses, well, I don't have anything to give you anyway. And then an idea comes to the girl's mind. Elena asks the dark-haired man if he wants to try to make eye contact with the statue. The landscape, if seen from above, is very beautiful. The boy does not know what to answer. The academy did not allow him to use magic. The dark-haired one reassures him. It's all right. I'll cast a spell. The boy lowers his head and with a faint smile says that he is not afraid of punishment. This is true, but certainly not 100%. Yelena closes her eyes and asks the fair-haired man to bow his head for a while. The young man bends a little, resting his hands on his knees. That's right. A dark cape is on the boy's shoulders. John is a little surprised. The girl explains her act. You're too visible, so it's better to cover up. The dark-haired man ties a neat bow on his cape. That's all, says the dark-haired man and smiles sweetly. It's the third time in the evening. This is surprising. Yuan begins to unbend. The dark-haired one pulls a hood over his head. The girl says that everything should be covered, including the head. The blonde looks Elena up and down. She's always been this small? Yelena extends a fragile little hand to the boy. The dark-haired one looks at John's frozen face and explains, if you're going up together with magic, you have to hold hands. The boy extends his hand in response. He says to himself, it's like I'm being offered an escort. The blonde smiles to himself at his thoughts. The girl closes her eyes and sighs. She tells the barrister that he will have to endure, even if the cape will be stuffy. You can't remove this thing under any circumstances. John silently agrees. The girl, holding the boy's hands, begins to cast a spell. Her face is serious and focused. A purple glow appears around the pair. Yuan and Elena's feet come off the ground. The girl lowers her head down. It is not clear why she did it. In order to control the process or goiter, do not look into the eyes of the man. John, on the other hand, cannot take his eyes off Elena. The boy realizes that this is his first deviation since birth. They are with dark hair, holding hands, floating in the cool night air. The guy feels something strange, squeezing Yelena's hand in his. He cannot even specifically describe these feelings. The only thing that can be said is that this has never happened to him. Day stable at the academy. Horses graze in a large field. Some of them are plucking fresh grass, some are playing, and some are just lying down. Yelena approaches one horse. She gently strokes the animal with her hand, but he rustles with satisfaction. On the girl's head is a large straw hat with a blue ribbon. By the way, he looks good with dark hair. She looks cute and a bit funny in such a huge hat. Suddenly, the girl hears someone's footsteps and turns her head to the side. She sees John and imperceptibly sighs. He again. That girl does not show her emotions. Instead, she politely greets the blonde. It's you, Ioana. The guy smiles his signature smile. Horse today. Yelena explains. Yes, they said that a groom was needed. This is unofficial. I work as an assistant and study. The young man asks how the dark-haired man gets permits for all these activities. The girl replies that everything is thanks to perseverance. Ioan asks how she is going to use the care of the horses. The girl raises her hand to her face. I'll come up with something later. The dark-haired one guessed she could use these skills as a knight or governor, or even in the army. Ioan squints. What thoughts does she live with imagining such a future? A drop of sweat runs down the fair-haired man's face. He squints and says, Unbelievable! Yelena smiles faintly and thanks Ioan. The girl continues to stroke the horse. The guy is angry, so he clenches his hands into fists. He didn't like that the dark-haired woman took his words as a compliment. Ioan realizes that now his face looks at its best. He tries to hide it with his hand. The boy is worried that his ideal and affectionate image, which he kept in front of Elena for a long time, has evaporated. The guy narrows his eyes and says to himself, When I'm with Elena, I don't know where the dialogue will go. I'm usually the leader in the dialogue, but not now. There's nothing good about more people seeing the real me. Yelena pulls the boy out of his unhappy thoughts. She grunts quietly, turns her head to the side and says, John, your horse. The boy glances at the animal. Yelena points her finger at a beautiful white horse and asks the fair-haired one, This child? The guy is surprised. He asks the girl how she knew that this dark-eyed mare belonged to him. The girl smiles. She looks at you differently. After all, what right would I have to be and work here if I didn't notice it? John purses his lips and shivers. The dark-haired woman smiled again. And to be honest, it scares the guy a little. He himself does not understand why. After a few seconds of silence, Ioan punches himself in the chest, trying to recover from Elena's strange charms. He closes his eyes. Time passes. A red-haired, green-eyed guy, Ioana's friend and roommate Todd Corain, tries to talk to the young man about Elena. Elena Eva? I know. She destroyed the legend of your endless troubles. Todd is sitting on John's bed. The redhead continues. You almost cried because of how bad it was. The fair-haired man, not taking his eyes off the book, replies, Don't lie. Todd just laughs. It was noticeable and you didn't know. We listen to lectures together. The subject of the science of chivalry is the art of wielding a sword on the battlefield. Ioan asks if Yelena listens to similar things. Todd says, "You'd be surprised to see her do it." John turns his head to the side of his friend. He places his hands as if holding a sword. Seriously, she holds a weapon without difficulty. And it's not easy, by the way. The position is quite good. Ioannis puts the book to his neck and, trying to look as friendly as possible, says, "You must have been watching her carefully. Truth? Do you like her?" Todd slyly squints and answers, "This is Yelena Evoy. She made John swallow the dust behind her. It would be strange if I wasn't interested." The blonde is indignant, but it's funny how his friend gets angry. The redhead falls on the bed and starts to laugh wildly. His face instantly turns red with laughter. John puts his hand to his forehead and tries to calm himself. After a while, Todd calms down. He wipes the tears that appeared in his eyes from laughing and asks John, "Tell me honestly, are you interested in Yelena Eva?" Huan starts to get annoyed. How dare this idiot who can't do anything without his parents talk to him like that? But the fair-haired man restrains himself. He closes his eyes and replies that it's only because he lost to someone for the first time. Todd sits down on the bed and says, "Are you so cool as to admit it? You?" The blonde tries not to pay attention to his friend's taunts, and agrees with him. The redhead smiles. "Well, I'm not the only one interested in her. Others, it seems, too. She's a pretty girl." Stunned, John asks, "Who? Yelena Evoy? What?" Todd replies, "It is. Don't you remember what a commotion there was when she got up on the podium on the first day? By the way, she has a cold charm. If she were friendlier, she would be much more popular than now." John casually waves his hand. "Huh? Is she on purpose? What other kindness? She doesn't like it. Whatever it is, she seems constantly busy. Why should she worry about such things?" Then somehow he laughs maliciously. "Ha ha!" The blonde says displeasedly, "Everyone has lost their common sense fully. And what a coldness. They just talk well." In his head, the fair-haired man sums up the week-long observation of Yelena Eva. Elena Eva is a very diligent and hard-working person. So much so that I'm surprised why she's still not famous. She caught the eye, but at the same time did not stand out from the group. The boy recalls the night when he saw Elena cleaning the statue with magic. Although the girl said that she had received permission, she still openly used magic within the walls of the academy. "Thanks to this, we flew together," says the fair-haired man. "And they held hands too," he added. This whole situation somewhat worries Ioan. Is that why he was so fixated on Yelena Eva? The boy's face is filled with paint. He doesn't understand what the hell is going on. How could a girl get so deep into his genius head? Todd notices his friend's condition. The guy is impressed. "Wow, that's it!" shouts the redhead. John asks, "What?" Todd simply covers his face with his palms in response. He laughs. In the calm life of John, an unexpected typhoon appeared. The blonde combs his head, trying to hide such an untimely blush. Todd pulls out an imaginary bucket of popcorn and says, "God, I've got to look at that." John asks his friend what he is thinking about now. The redhead says that he's caught up in the thoughts of tomorrow's class. A little later, Academy corridor. There is a notice board for students near the wall. John passes by her until suddenly he is called, "John!" The young man turns his head and sees a short girl with fire-colored hair. The guy asks her, Valisa, did you also listen to this lecture?" The girl cheerfully answers, "Yes." The girl sweetly squints her eyes. "It's a good thing that I changed the lecture at the same time I met Joanna." These words sound as if the guy is not standing next to her. But Joanna is not embarrassed by this. He smiles and says, "Haha, that means you're in a good mood." Todd, who is passing by, notices insincerity in John's expression and words. Meanwhile, Valisa continues to say, "Oh, sure, Ioan, they say that Professor Harper's lectures need a partner." The guy says he didn't know that. The girl says she heard it from a senior student. She flashes her bright green eyes and asks the blonde if he would mind becoming her partner. By the way, this girl is the only daughter of the Ursh family, which owns a giant gold deposit. Ioan maintained a friendly relationship with her, but he does not know if she treats him only as a friend. The guy lowers his head and purses his lips. "Anyway, I'd better keep my distance from her." But the boy does not show his mood. He kindly opens the door for the girl and says that he will gladly be her partner. She rejoices. Really? So cool. As soon as it's time to choose a partner, I'll already know who I should be with. The guy gives her a creaky smile. I'll be grateful if you do. He leans against the door and lets Velisa forward. Yelena is sitting in the classroom. She turns her head to the side of John and his girlfriend. The girl looks at these two with an indifferent look. Not a trace remained of the mood she had in the stable. The eyes, as usual, are wide open. The lips are tightly compressed. Hyoyeon glances at the dark-haired man. He tries to squeeze a smile out of himself, but no matter how hard he tries, it turns out so-so. For some reason, during meetings with Elena, the fair-haired man cannot wear his usual mask. The guy turns his head to the side and covers his face with his fist. He does not want Elena to see the real him, his feelings and soul. In addition, he now remembered a not very convenient moment of one of their many chance meetings. The night they flew and held hands, looking at each other. Hyoyeon lightly slaps himself on the cheek, trying to regain his composure. He says to himself, I guess it's all because I went up so fast. It is clear that this is a lie, but the young man will never admit it. He continues to drill the floor with a somewhat angry look. His face turns tomato red again. The blush is visible even from afar. After all, Iowan suggests that there could be another reason for this, which he does not want to hear about. The office of one of the teachers. Numerous jars and glasses are placed on the table. The bespectacled professor says sternly, It seems that everyone is in their places. So now I report the homework I warned you about earlier? The man says that this semester's homework is a brain game that requires a group of 2. Students begin to whisper to each other. The professor ignores this. 2 people take turns asking each other questions. If everyone makes one mistake, the game ends. The main score depends on the number of correct answers. John begins to worry. The teacher leans on the table and says that if the tasks are too difficult, points may be deducted, so students should be careful. The winner of the game will be awarded bonus points. Iowan thinks, in short, this is not only a group task, but also a personal one. For some reason, the guy imagines himself in a couple with Elena. The more questions students ask each other, the higher their main score will be. Excited, Viklisa turns to the young man. Yoan? The guy smiles encouragingly and says that everything will be fine. The fair-haired squints. It's hard to expect something brilliant from Velisa. If I'm going to get good marks, I have to prepare a countermeasure. The professor says he will assign partners to work with each other during the semester. Velisa bangs her fists on the table with indignation. John is simply shocked. And then it's his turn. Mr. Iowan and Lady Elena, ideally. Parabok does not share the teacher's enthusiasm. The blonde arched his eyebrows questioningly. He can't believe that he was paired with Elena. Yoan blushes. Yelena took this news completely calmly. She did not even look in the direction of the young man. Velisa is upset. Finally, the dark-haired man gives at least some kind of reaction. A soft hum. John looks at the girl. It seems to him that she is mentally laughing at him. The guy lowers his eyes to the desk and thinks, Our names were called together, but she doesn't care? A few hours ago she behaved very sweetly, but now she put on a mask of indifference again. This girl is a total mystery. Academy corridor. The class has already ended. Velisa talks to Iowan. The girl does not understand why he was paired with Elena. The red-haired woman clenches her hands into fists and asks the boy, Can't we talk to him about this, Em? She does not want to lose hope of communication with her husband. The guy puts his hand forward. Velisa, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to work as a couple. In fact, he is not sorry at all. Another insincerity on the part of John. The guy explains to the girl. He said several times that it is impossible to change a partner. Even if you talk to him personally, the answer will remain the same. Professor Bundyuch will still refuse. The young man smiles and says that if Velisa needs help, she can turn to him at any time. The girl says, Iowan. She was charmed by the young man's smile. Suddenly, someone interrupts Velisa and Iowan's conversation. This is Yelena. She approaches the couple and, ignoring the redhead, asks the young man, John, could you give me a few seconds? Velisa is annoyed by the dark-haired man. The girl clenches her hand into a fist and says that she is now talking to Iowan. Yelena calmly says that she has absolutely no time now. If it is urgent, she will tell later. Valisa closes her eyes and sighs theatrically. Right then again. But before she has time to finish the sentence, Ioan says to Elena, "Tell me now. Now it's okay." Valisa is shocked by this behavior of the fair-haired man. The redhead stares at him in surprise. Ioan silently pushes her aside and smiles at Yelena. The boy and the girl go out into the courtyard and head towards the academy garden. There are not many people, so it is an ideal place to have a quiet conversation. Dark-haired and John sit down on the bench. Yelena apologizes to the boy for distracting him from his work. Ioan reassures the girl. "Now, there are more important things to do. What happened?" Ioan looks away from the girl, waiting for an answer. It seems to Parubkova that Yelena is behaving a little strangely. She hadn't even looked at him recently. Although, of course, she shouldn't do this. Here the boy opens his eyes wide from the realization of the situation that is happening now. Elena wants to say something to him, a person to whom she was completely indifferent. Or was not. The blonde looks at the girl's face and mentally notes, "I was thinking why this shy face seems painfully familiar to me." The boy asks himself, "Is this what I've been through a bunch of times since Manhwa Academy?" In the light-haired man's imagination, the image of a shy schoolgirl who confesses her love to him appears. A big yellow bell jingles in the boy's head. Ioan imagines Elena confessing her love to him, blushing a little. The girl's eyes are lowered. John rejoices. He smiles triumphantly and says to himself again, What the hell, was that it? Of course this is possible. Most people show their sincere feelings, but there are also those who skillfully hide them." The guy glances at Yelena, who lightly punches herself on the chest. People of this type behave disinterestedly in order to achieve their goal. They pretend that they don't like you, that they don't want to talk to you. But this is all just a mask, a classic trick. John puts his hand to his forehead and closes his eyes. How could he not recognize this elementary trick? Does Yelena have such a high level of acting skills? The blonde lowers his eyes and wonders how he should be. "You can refuse with the same comment I used until now." But there is one problem. John's chin twitches involuntarily. The boy does not know what face he should make at this. He covers his face with his hand. What should he say to this girl? How to behave? Yelena squints at Ioan, not understanding why he is silent for so long. By coincidence, the boy decides to look in the direction of the dark-haired woman. Her, somewhat wary, and his confused eyes meet. Yelena looks away from the fair-haired man. It is unclear why. Maybe it was layered, maybe something else. Ioan swallows saliva, unable to take his eyes off the dark-haired woman. Finally, the girl turns to the young man. She says, "John, it would be good for us to choose a day and agree on everything once. The professor is going to look at teamwork as well." The blonde scratched his neck. "Elena, me." The girl looks into John's eyes. A group task, it would be nice to discuss it. The guy is too focused on his thoughts, so he asks Yelena to repeat what she said. The girl says, "I will be grateful if you take part in this." John's eyes widen in surprise. His face is getting redder than ever. He starts coughing and tries to hide it. John realizes that he was wrong. Yelena says that she cannot lose the scholarship. The girl asks the fair-haired man to choose a convenient time for him to discuss. The blonde finally comes to his senses. "Ah, we are partners for sure." The girl continues. "I almost forgot. Today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and 2 days later will be difficult." John tries to smile. He says in his mind, "You said to choose a convenient time for me." Yelena huffs, a slight smile appears on her lips. The girl squints cutely and hurries to calm the nervous Ioan. "Just kidding. You had a very strange expression on your face." John stares at the girl. His cheeks are still red. The guy tries to laugh. A joke." The blonde asks himself if Yelena has ever tried to joke with someone. The dark-haired one touches her chin and lowers her eyes to the ground. "That I should get a scholarship is true. We need to decide on a meeting time." John looks back and says that he will come to the library later. In any case, Yelena will be there. The boy almost said that the dark-haired man worked there but stopped in time. Yelena raises her finger, urging Ioan to be quiet. "I'll be grateful if you do that. In return, don't make a fuss there when you come, please." John agrees and somewhat indignantly says, "But who is making noise?" Yelena does not pay attention to this. She gets up from the bench and bows in farewell. The girl glances at Eowyn and smiling says, "Well, I'm off now, see you later." John squeezes out, "Yes." The fair-haired man, as if enchanted, looks after Yelena. The girl, who has already moved away from the bench, stops for a moment. She turns to John and starts to wave him goodbye. It would seem nothing special, but the fair-haired man waves back and says to himself, "And the way she waves her hand looks beautiful too." Suddenly, the boy's hand trembles involuntarily. Eowyn clears his throat and looks away from Elena. It is still red. The young man does not understand, but guesses what is happening to him. Am I really out of my mind? Library. The sun penetrates through the large windows of this room and illuminates the stacks of books. Eowyn is sitting at the table and writing something in a small notebook. The pen creaks on the paper. The fair-haired man concentrates on taking notes. Elena Evoy. She smiled. The reasons are unknown. When there are no people around, he reads a book. She smiled again. Her gaze hasn't changed, so it's definitely a fake smile. The young man's blue eyes shine and rests his chin on his hand. He grunts softly. Probably thought about something interesting. But no, Eowyn is just trying to analyze Elena's behavior. She often smiles, although the fair-haired man thought that this girl always had an indifferent expression on her face, as if she had a stone. She knows how to smile so sweetly, but the first meeting with Eowyn gave him only a cold look. Maybe she's selective about people? The fair-haired man says in his mind. The guy is waiting for Yelena to finish her work. He tries to read, but he can't concentrate at all. Words do not fit in the head. Naughty letters run before the eyes. The blonde does not understand why. He glances forward, wanting to find his irritant. Yelena sits at the table and sweetly discusses work issues with a girl. Eowyn jumps up and says to himself, "The problem is the light. The sun is too bright, so you can't concentrate at all." In fact, this is not the case at all. But let's pretend we believed it. John enters the darkest corner of the library. There is so much here. It seems that the dust in this place has not been wiped for 200 years. And even more. The blonde slumps on the chair and crosses his arms over his chest. He naively believes that a change of location will help him focus on the book. John stares at the book. He stares into the text, wanting to absorb it. The boy tries with all his might to understand what he has read. But again, something is wrong. John does not hold back. He gets up and cautiously peeks around the corner. The young man looks at Yelena, who is doing something while sitting at her desk. The blonde sighs. He starts to feel dizzy. He clutches his head in his hands and mentally gulps. "Come on, Ioana Eldorado. What are you doing now?" The young man decides to distract himself from all this. He walks past the shelves, touching each book with his hands. His thin, long fingers stop on the book. On the necessity of the existence of a rival. The blonde takes it out and unfolds it. "You should read the table of contents first," he says. His eyes run over the 4 lines. What is a rival? Do you have a rival? The reason for its existence, the influence it has on you. John grunts. The book seems quite interesting to him. But he is in no hurry to turn the page, but simply looks at the text, remembering something. An image of a smiling Elena appears in the young man's imagination. Such a girl simply cannot be a rival or an enemy. It is impossible. That's what the blonde thinks. The guy closes his eyes and repeats again, "Impossible." He tries to calm down. "She just took my gold, which can be considered a mistake. I never had any competitors. You need to relax." Yelena interrupts Ioana's thoughts here. She approaches the boy and innocently asks what he is doing. Ioan shuddered and abruptly closed the book he was holding in his hands. He does not want Elena to see what he is reading. The guy tries to be friendly. "Elena, oh." The girl says that he can speak because everyone has already left. "I came as soon as I saw everything," adds the dark-haired man. The girl points to the book that the boy hid behind his back and says, "By the way, you must have been reading another book. You are already done with the exercises." John says that he did not do everything. The dark-haired man and the young man sit down at the table across from each other. The girl asks, "What is the best way to prepare for the quiz? I don't know how many parts it will have, but we need to decide. Are we going to improvise or prepare questions in advance?" The dark-haired girl lowers her eyes. anticipating a counter-question from John, and says that she doesn't care how to complete the task. She can study the textbook in its entirety if the need arises. Ioan looks at Elena and thinks, in her case, she can really learn everything. She said that she must get a scholarship. Huan's blue eyes sparkle. He, a member of the royal family, does not need a scholarship, but what he really needs is first place. For a boy, it will be more valuable than money. But the young man is not going to tell Yelena about it. He says he doesn't care either, another lie. And this person still demands sincerity from others. John opens his eyes wide. Many thoughts swirl in his head. If we rely on improvisation, the reasons for our meetings will disappear. There is no need to cooperate if there is rivalry between us. This is the end. The young man collects his thoughts, clears his throat, and says, working together in advance is also not bad. In reality, everything may not be so simple, so training will help us get rid of anxiety. Yelena answers, okay, so you need to choose the main questions that everyone should follow. Repetitions should be avoided. Ioan adds that it would be good to know the nature of the questions, and suggests that Yelena write about 20. Yelena does not say anything, but instead begins to quickly write down questions in a notebook. Her pen glides very quickly across the somewhat yellowish rough paper, leaving behind traces of neat little letters. John looks at the feather of the dark-haired woman. It looks quite old. She uses them for a long time. The young man guesses that the girl has money problems. The girl, without raising her head, says, even if you look at me like that, I only have one feather. At least borrow some ink? John politely declines. She decided I was staring because I didn't have a pen, he says in his mind. The guy glances at the girl's concentrated face again. The lips are pursed, the eyes are slightly narrowed and focused on the paper. Strands of purple hair fall over the shoulders. The young man himself does not understand why he keeps looking at Yelena. This is strange and suggests thoughts of a romantic nature. But the blonde tries to deny it. It's because I have to keep an eye on my enemy. Academy courtyard. Fluffy white clouds float across the sky. The academy faced the period of enrollment of students in additional circles. Useful practice. When the right time comes at the beginning of the semester, each club tries with all its might to attract freshmen. All this happens due to the fact that the assignment of the premises and receiving money for the necessary depends on the number of participants in the group. Although, of course, the more important reason is the emergence of new connections and maintenance of reputation. Therefore, it is not surprising that the members of all circles approached Ioan. Don't you want to join our circle of international affairs? Senior students almost fight among themselves. Everyone wants a member of the royal family in their circle. John just smiles as he watches this. The fair-haired man puts his hand to his chin and wonders if he should join a group. Groups are created to make new acquaintances. Once I join a few, will it be over? Yelena is sitting on a bench near the academy. She is, as always, busy. Now the dark-haired man is reading a book, probably some kind of textbook. Ioan glances at the girl. So loud, and she didn't even look back. No one says a word to her. Senior students continue their debate. Huan scratches his chin. It's nothing to worry about, though. Maybe go over and say a few words to her? Just like that for looks. Suddenly the boy's eyes widen. He notices a strange, gloomy young man with long dark hair and a short ponytail. He approaches Yelena and looks at her. The dark-haired one looks up from the book and raises his head. The girl is a little surprised that someone approached her. A boy with bright blue eyes like John's carefully examines her through a monocle. The girl standing next to John says, Winter came too, as expected. Came in person. The blonde asks who it is. The girl explains that this is Winter Dortmiller, the president of the Circle for Making Magical Materials. Ioan ponders, a magic materials crafting circle? Heard something about him. Besides, something is not very good. One of the senior students approaches Ioan and the girl. He says that recently anyone is accepted into this circle, and they leave immediately. The girl answers, of course not everyone wants to study in a group. The responsible professor often comes to the group meeting and keeps everyone and everything under control. Because of this, no one goes there. If there are too few participants, the group will be closed. That is why Winter came to Yelena, wants to lure her. Elena listens to the young man, drilling him with her usual indifferent look. She even answers something to him. But so far, it does not seem that the girl agrees to Wincher's proposal. Yuan closes his eyes and smiles smugly. The senior student didn't make it either. Yelena, busy with work everywhere, can't have time for some kind of club. Wincher is not going to give up. He continues to stare at Yelena and prove something to her. But Iowan is sure that no matter how persuasive this boy is, he will not succeed. And here Wincher extends his hand to Yelena. On his fingers are 3 silver wedding rings. Yelena, surprisingly, shakes the young man's hand while looking at him. Wincher looks pleased. Still, someone agreed to join his circle. John looks at the hands of the young man and the girl. He is amazed and upset at the same time. The blonde opens his eyes wide. He cannot believe that Yelena agreed to join the group. Someone is running down the corridor. The door of one of the rooms suddenly opens. A boy with short brown hair runs inside. He shouts, "Trouble! They say he wants to join the club. Iowan Periton." The events take place in a huge building. This is the Malfines building of the Minuet Academy. Here are the circle rooms. Such residences. The students inside discuss John. They say he's already turned down several clubs. John hasn't made up his mind yet, has he? A fierce struggle began. Every circle wants to get this gifted newcomer. As soon as Isaac graduates from the academy, Iowan will become the only thread that can somehow connect with the House of Periton. A chance in a million when you can make friends with a clan that is part of the imperial family. However, the circle that Iowan liked, this blue-eyed genius, is far from general chaos. This is an unremarkable magic materials crafting circle. Iowan crosses his arms over his chest and glances at the crowd of male and female students fascinated by him. They whispered to each other, happy to be standing next to a student of imperial blood. The blonde does not pay attention to people. All his thoughts are focused on Elena's introduction to the circle. She didn't look like a person who wanted to spend time on it. Amazingly. The boy lowers his head, closes his eyes, and purses his lips. He's a bit displeased that Wincher was able to lure the dark-haired one. I'm not sure, but maybe she had some circumstances that led her to go in there. Iowan hears the patter of someone's shoes on the floor. The guy gathers his thoughts. Finally, they came. I'm already tired of standing here and being an exhibit for everyone. He is angry. Of course, not out loud. The blonde looks at Wincher and her sister Emily. These two are known supporters of magicians. Todmeilers understand people well, have a tough speech. It is easy to guess that they are famous for their character. If they didn't come from a family well known in scientific magical circles, no one would dare to approach them. Emily and Wincher approach John. The fair-haired man stares at them. Will they also offer me to join the circle, he says in his mind. The circle for the production of magical materials really needs people. Emily and Wincher look very serious and focused. Iowan is waiting for them to finally invite him to their not-so-popular circle. But the brother and sister just walk past the fair-haired man without even saying hello. John is in shock. He did not expect such a reaction to himself. The fair-haired man begins to have a hidden tantrum. He opens his eyes wide and mentally shouts, "Pass by? No, why? Why, The door of one of the rooms of the building opens. Emily and Wincher go inside. A green-eyed girl with red curly hair, third-year Rita Karth, asks the young man, "Why couldn't you find more people, Vincere?" The young man flops down on the sofa, puts his hands in his pockets, and answers, "There was no one who was interested." It can be seen that the young man is not happy with this. A black-haired guy in glasses lying with a book in his hand says, "But in principle, there is no one who would be interested in this circle." This guy is sophomore Mark, Wincher's childhood friend. Yelena says as if she heard that the group will be closed if there are less than 6 people in it. Wincher turns to the girl. "That is why I am very grateful to you, Lady Elena. We just have to find one more person to avoid closure." Mark grumpily asks his friend if he wants to thank him. After all, it was he who became the 4th member of their circle. Emily tells the young man that she can thank him instead of her brother. Yelena says that Wincher claimed that she could not pay to participate in the circle. He assures her that he will fulfill his promises. Mark smiles. Didn't expect a person to peck Wincher's fishing rod. Yelena puts her hand to her chin. The girl believes that the knowledge acquired in the group will help her in the future. Besides, it's free. Rita asks why it's so loud in the corridor. Wincher lowers his head and snorts with the crook of his rod. All because of John Eldorado Periton. The young man looks annoyed. "What can you say about Rita? The girl claps her hands and says, "Wow, the same Yoan Peritan. Maybe we should go and have a look." Wincher says the blonde is still in the hallway. Wincher asks the redhead if he invited Iowan to the club. The young man waves his hand. Even without knowing which group he is looking for, he is clearly not interested in ours. I'm not in the habit of wasting time on things that are known to fail. Rita tells Wincher that he has no passion at all. The club will definitely not be closed if such a person joins it. This will be especially useful during the festival, and they will give a lot of money for the club's activities, says the girl. About money. One of the rules of the Manhwa-Hub Academy is that the expenditure of personal finances on the activities of the group should not exceed the specified limit. This was done in order to maintain a balance among the circles and increase the enthusiasm of their participants. The more achievements and participants in the circle, the more money is allocated for it. Therefore, circles with a small number of participants barely made ends meet. One of these was a circle for making magical materials. Rita thinks, if you think about it like that, Yellen overtook Iowan, taking the first place. By the way, have you never talked to Iowan personally? Elena's answer is immediate. Dark-haired says that the boy congratulated her and she thanked him. Rita asks with a smile, "Is that all?" The girl agrees. Mark puts his hand to his head and mentally notes that the Dot Millers have this new energy. The girl is as cold as them. Yelena begins to write something on a piece of paper. If you think about it, in Professor Harper's lectures on history, we work with him in pairs. Rita says, "What luck? Then you can ask him how he likes our group? It's not difficult." Yelena finishes writing and hands the sheet to Rita. "Okay, I'll ask. Here's my application for joining the circle." The redhead smiles sweetly and thanks. Evening. The sky turns bright red. Heavy clouds float slowly through it. Yes, the sunset is really a very beautiful sight. Yelena stands on the balcony and says to herself, "It would be nice if the professor came more often. There is so much more I need to learn." The girl hears someone's footsteps. She turns around. Johnny is looking at the sunset. His facial expression is somewhat nervous. Different emotions are reflected in blue eyes: sadness, fear, excitement. The girl approaches the young man. "Hello, Iowana." He immediately responds, "Elena." It seems he didn't expect to see the girl here. The dark-haired one wonders if it would be okay if she asks him about joining the club now. In the end, the girl decides that it is better to ask quickly and receive a refusal while there is no one. The girl coughs. She politely asks, "John, wouldn't you like to join the magic material making club?" The blonde stares at Yelena. He is silent, not knowing what, and most importantly, how to say. Yelena looks at the boy and thinks, as expected, he will refuse. So I knew. For me, this kind of circle is the best option. But there is room for him to enter. The girl says to the blonde, "I think I understood your answer." She is about to leave quietly as John says, "I wanted to." The dark-haired man questions the young man. She does not believe that she did not hear. The blonde put his hand to his chest and gritted his teeth. "I'd like to join the club you're talking about." The guy adds that he will come there tomorrow. Yelena replies in amazement, "How did everything turn out? I didn't even expect that you would agree. But why?" John does not understand what the dark-haired man is talking about. The girl sparkles with purple eyes and explains, "You can join any other club, much better, more interesting, and more popular than this one. You will be accepted everywhere." The blonde freezes in place. He doesn't know what to say. In principle, as always, when this girl is in front of him. And it annoys him. The guy stands with his eyes wide open and tries to think of something. Xiwan realizes that he just blurted out and begins to panic. "You can go crazy, I couldn't say that. Are there people who want to see the professor often?" The girl says, So you also entered here for this reason?" John asks, "What does you too mean?" The dark-haired one bites her finger and explains, "I have to defend my place. It will be difficult with you. We'll have to try." Dark-haired understands that what was said was not very appropriate. She thinks John will think she's weird, although he probably thinks so. Yelena smiles and says, "Well, see you tomorrow." She goes away. Iowan does not have time to say a word to her. He raises a hand to stop the dark-haired man but realizes it's useless. And why? Yelena is very busy with work. She does not like empty, meaningless chatter. Therefore, the guy just stands still and looks after her, trying to understand whether he was lucky or not.